like science.
I like science.
I like science.
Oh my God, that's loud.
Yeah, it is
That
very
was
loud.
Science.
that was a very loud signal that we are recording, and we are recording. And it's been a while. Have you missed us? We missed you.
Yeah, it's been 2 whole weeks. How did you make it without us?
There's one or two new ones of you out there, and don't think I didn't notice. I saw that in the plays. And whoever decided to listen to us was binging the hell out of us because those plays were like skyrocketing.
Well, thank you for that, whoever you are.
Yeah, it's like
Get in
one or
touch
two
on our
here and
social media.
there. Then I go into Spotify and look again, and it's like they're all at that, and I'm like, holy crap. So hopefully you're not sick of us yet.
Yet, I mean,
Oh,
this is
and
only episode 7.
yeah. And who are we, by the way, in case people
Uh,
are dropping in?
I'm Brandy,
I'm Dave.
and
I'll
this is
go by DJ Evil Dave.
I'm just Brandy, and this is shield modulation. Bitches.
Yes, the Random Star Trek podcast in which we review randomly chosen episodes and movies from the Star Trek franchise, including this one, our first delve into Enterprise.
Yes, and this is not our first delve ever into Enterprise, of course. But as far as the podcast is concerned,
Yes,
we've had a couple of Voyager episodes. We've had one movie, had a TNG episode, and I'm missing something.
there's the cat at the door. Hey, bud.
The cat would like to come in,
Yeah,
please.
as soon as you close the door to record, he comes in and he's like,
Yeah.
"Hey, mom.
Oh yeah,
Hey,
we had an
mom."
episode of Picard.
Yes, we did. That was
Yes,
our first one,
that
which
was
was
our
odd. It
first one.
was, yeah, it was a late season, almost end. It was like the penultimate episode of
Yep.
season 3.
So
There's
yeah,
a
we
guy.
had we had
Oh, oops, sorry.
season
Watch
three
your
of
little head.
Picard. We had Voyager episode 5, season 5, episode. I should have put my reading glasses on. 3, Extreme Risk. Star Trek Nemesis was the third episode. See, I keep track of all this shit for you guys. Episode 4 was the animated series. Season 1, episode 6, The
Right.
Survivor, which is a corker.
Hmm.
Episode 5 was Voyager again, season 5, episode 10, Counterpart. Oh, both of those episodes in season 5. Interesting.
Yep.
And then the last one, episode 6, was TNG, season 4, episode 26, Redemption, part 1. So today, Enterprise.
Yes.
Enterprise.
And as usual, when we first get into a series, we like to talk about our experience with that series.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is your Enterprise experience?
It being preempted a lot and me missing about 3/4 of the episodes because they would play them at odd hours and never give anyone a heads up as to when they were going to do that.
Indeed. I remember being trepidatious because I knew it was a prequel and trying to organize in my brain something made, contemporary at the time, the production level to be before the original series and how that was going to work, when you had practically what was almost like cardboard sets in the original series to, more updated like set construction, a higher budget and stuff for a prequel and trying to balance that out and such things as them not having shields, but having some kind of weird shield plating thing that I still don't quite understand.
Polarize the whole plating, which is
Yeah.
about the same as just pulling up a warm blanket over you. It doesn't
Yeah.
give you much protection
It's
at
like, how does
all.
polarizing anything do anything against torpedoes and phasers and stuff?
Well, see, that's the thing. They did not know exactly what they were going to be up against, did they? This is a
No.
vessel of exploration.
And we addressed some of that in this episode. And I guess when you get into Enterprise as well, you have to talk about the theme song. It's like a
Yes,
requirement since this is our first Enterprise. We should probably address that. Faith of the
indeed.
Heart.
Yep. Not the only it's definitely the only series theme song with lyrics. And it was an
Right.
actual existing song prior
Hmm.
to being chosen as the opening theme. I hated it for many years. for many
Right.
years. And now I will belt it out the minute anyone says it's been a long road. I will start belting it out.
I almost started this episode of the podcast with it being a short while getting from there to here because, just our eighth episode and we're already at Enterprise, which isn't too long of a wait, I guess.
It's episode 7, dear.
Oh, 7? Okay.
Yes.
This, the numbering is odd because we had that teaser episode.
Yes. And it wasn't really
So,
an episode. It was just a hi, how are you? This is what we're doing.
yeah. But I think
So,
it's still numbered, unless it's numbered as episode 0. I'd have to look.
yeah, I think I numbered it as episode 0. So,
Oh, I might,
yeah.
I might,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
put them all on Spotify in a playlist so I could actually look. Yes, episode 6. So yeah, this is episode 7. So yeah, we've had 7 episodes. This is our 8th, but it's going to be numbered 7. So if any of that makes sense.
I
Math.
don't, the first one was not even long enough to be an episode.
It was
That's why
like a
it was
long
teaser.
trailer. It's like 10
Yes,
minutes.
trailer. So,
Yeah.
not an episode.
Just kind of set up, mapping out what we do per episode.
Right.
Yawn. I
Sorry,
see that.
guys.
I see you doing that, and I'm not going to edit out because we don't
Ugh,
do editing. That's
we
another thing
don't.
about this show.
Nope. If
We also
I,
mentioned Dan Gunther, and I hope he gets well soon.
yeah, Dan's not feeling well. We were
There's a
supposed to
bud.
do, oh, kitty buddy. We were supposed to do an episode of the Unready Room today for episode 3 of Lower Decks season 5. Uh, the best nanite hotel something.
Yes.
I wrote it down in a
The
different book.
best exotic nanite
Nanite
hotel, something
Hotel,
like
yes,
that.
the best exotic nanite hotel. Which is a great episode, and I need to watch it probably a couple times more just to really glean all of the little things from it. But anyway, long story
If nothing
short,
else, then the vibe tubes.
yes, the vibe tubes, and to Lynn being a big fan of them.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing her as a fangirl is so fun.
Yes, yes.
I mean, you can barely discern the change in her demeanor, but
Yep.
it's a lot for a full Vulcan, you know.
Lynn, you are out of control.
Yes.
Yeah, we haven't done Lower Decks yet. I keep expecting us to do Deep Space Nine. That hasn't happened yet. So there are series we haven't gotten to quite yet.
Yep.
We haven't had an original series yet either.
No, we have not. We've had animated series, but not full original series. So we've got that. Haven't had any short treks either. So
Oh, or Discovery, which I'm looking forward, or Strange New Worlds. So there's plenty of Star Trek series that have yet to be discussed. And yeah, Enterprise, our first step into that, and an interesting episode, kind of an odd A and B plot to this one, and I don't know if they quite gel.
They're at opposite ends of the spectrum for sure.
Yeah, it does create a strange dichotomy for this particular one, as if they had taken two disparate scripts and combined them. It's like, well, this one's too short and this one's too short, so we'll just combine these 2 episodes into 1 episode.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of like the point of the B plot was to give us a little more information about Reed, because we have very, very little information about him at this point in the series, and this is episode 12. Now, if you're watching it on Paramount Plus or something like that, you'll see it numbered as episode 11 because they combined Broken Bow into one thing and counted it as one episode. But as aired, that's not how this happened. So we are doing this by the air date, which the list that Dan provided us with is very helpful in that regard. So thanks again, Dan. Also, hi Tim. How you doing? You doing okay?
And Patrick, hello.
Patrick, yeah, you're off doing something fun today, and I hope you had fun. So okay, so let's get down to it. Episode 12, season 1, Silent Enemy.
Silent Enemy.
Silent Enemy. So yeah, I had forgotten about basically them dropping the equivalent of subspace buoys in space so that they could communicate with Earth and stuff, because they're going into areas where Earthlings have never been.
Yeah, so they're kind of setting up all these satellites to bounce off each other, like a little leapfrog kind of situation.
Yeah, because
from one satellite to the next satellite to home.
Yeah, those cell towers only reach so far. So
Right.
you,
Yeah.
you
So,
gotta
and nobody
gotta
on
build
on
more.
the board is worried about 5G. So
No, no.
can you believe that? Subspace messaging conspiracy theorists. It changes your DNA, man. You're gonna become
Sure.
woke and sheeple.
hmm No, you were actually the sheeple, but okay. Um, yeah. So that was interesting. And of course they get interrupted by an unknown ship. And
Ooh.
it's bad guys because it's green. It's
Yeah,
got green
it's
lights
got
and
the
stuff.
Marvel villain philosophy
hmm
to baddies is that you show up in green outfits because you look at Loki and Enchantress and Viper,
Yeah, well
Doctor Doom.
also right inside Star Trek, Romulans,
Hmm.
they're very green.
Yep.
Um, who else is green? Gosh, it's
Well,
already
even
slipped my
in the
mind.
X-Men, if you think of Jean Grey becoming Dark Phoenix, she was green until she became red.
Oh yeah, the
And then
Borg.
there's Rogue, who used to be member of the Brotherhood of Mutants. She wears green. So
Yeah, the Borg are also very green.
Borg are also very green, kind of like the Matrix has that kind of green sheen to it.
Yeah. So green just
Yeah.
very
Well,
much.
it was very big in the 90s too, that acid green color. I remember a lot of like beer commercials using acid green,
Mm,
which is weird because it suggests to me poison.
yes, but this is after that.
Yeah.
This is we're in
This is, yeah,
2001.
2000s because
It,
there's a lot of post 9/11 stuff to Enterprise that we'll get to in future episodes, I'm sure.
yeah, that doesn't happen until a bit later.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Future episodes of Enterprise will address that more than the first season does. Because,
Yes.
yeah, first season, you could see that they're still trying to find their feet a little, I guess, which is typical of a Star Trek series until
That's
now, in
typical of
which,
any
yeah,
series.
now with the kind of the Netflix model and streaming is like you have to have your show in order first season or you get canceled. It's a
Yeah.
weird expectation to put on a television series that you have to be good right off the bat or you don't continue.
Yeah, and then even if you are good and you get another season,
Yeah, there's no
if
guarantee.
you don't get an increase in viewership,
Yeah.
then you're going to get canceled anyway. I don't know what they're doing at Netflix, but please, God, do not cancel Prodigy.
Yeah, it's weird because they don't rely on an advertising model. So they're not getting
Mhm.
advertising revenue, they're getting subscription fees, and that's what they're going after. And so they
Yeah.
model things, especially over at Netflix, on binge watching. And not everybody binge watches. Some people like to savor. They like
hmm
to think about the episode they just watched until they come back to the next one.
Yeah.
They don't sit there and watch the same television series all day long.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yep,
It's
it
weird.
is weird. But yeah,
Anyway,
it's a cool looking ship. It's got some neat acidy green kind of electronic features to it. They look kind of like glowy emeralds.
and they get zero readings on it. They can't detect life
Yep.
signs. They can't detect weapons. They can't detect anything. So this
Yeah.
one's obviously got some really good and really advanced shielding. So,
Yeah,
and
'cause-
Archer, opens a channel, tries to talk. It's basically a lot of him saying stuff, and then he's like, "Okay, then. Well, okay, bye."
and that early optimism of those first seasons of Enterprise with Archer, like very optimistic, very upbeat. Is like, hey, hi, we're Earthlings. We're here to meet people. How's it going? And then
Yep.
nothing. Like, okay, then.
Yeah,
Awkward.
it's weird. It's weird. We've also got our B plot going on, which is Malcolm's birthday is coming up.
And there's even that weird tone shift in that scene when Hoshi asks Archer over to kind of whisper to him that, I found them. It's like, found what? Did you trace these aliens already to their original destination? Then they reference someplace on Earth, Malaysia? Was it
hmm
where they were?
I
And it's
believe
kind of
so.
like a weird, like whiplash kind of tone shift from
Yeah.
the mystery aliens to, hey, I found them. Found what? Found who? What?
Yeah, well, it's
Malcolm
just
Reed?
like
What?
the ship already left, so he might as well focus on other things. And
Right.
so basically, they want to give him a little birthday party sort of thing, and Archer wants to know what his favorite food is.
Mm-hmm. And
And
a birthday
so,
dinner.
yeah, nice birthday dinner, and that's a nice thing,
Yeah.
actually finding
Yeah.
out what someone likes best. That's really, it's caring and it's
Mhm.
considerate.
And it's
And
not like a gift that can be a burden to some people. If gift somebody a plant and then they're burdened with keeping it alive, that sort of thing. And
yeah,
it's like if you give somebody a birthday dinner, yeah, you got to eat. And if they eat what they like, it's kind of a nice thing without, having to burden them by giving them stuff.
yeah. Well, I don't think that that's really much of a thing anymore as far
Yeah.
as the post scarcity uh thing that Starfleet and the
Yeah.
Federation have going on.
Well, even so, you see gifts like, giving Picard a copy of Moby Dick or something,
Hmm.
like a first edition Moby Dick, which would be rare because you can't replicate a first edition in the same way.
This is
You
true.
can copy it, but it's not going to be the real thing.
No, it's not. There is a couple of other life aboard the ship mentions with the
Right.
we don't get to see it, but to Paul to Paul's bout with chopsticks, her latest bout with chopsticks.
Oh, I missed that line.
I did not.
Oh, wow. You'd think she'd be adept at that just because Vulcans are, very
Yeah,
skilled. But yeah, if it's a custom that you're not used to.
yeah, she hasn't figured out the manual dexterity of it yet, I guess.
Yeah,
But I think Trip was the one who said that, and then Trip is also complaining about how his girlfriend broke up with
right.
him
That
over
I caught.
subspace.
Long long distance relationship. It doesn't get any longer distance than this.
It really doesn't, unless you're in another galaxy.
And that
Then
he's
it's,
upset that he never got to say goodbye face to face.
yeah, because they left in a hurry because
Yeah,
guess whose britches were on fire? Yes, Archer's.
right.
Archer's britches were, or his knickers were in a twist, depending on which you want to say.
Yeah,
But
Archer's an odd captain, and there's a little bit of nepotism to Archer because wasn't his dad the one that worked on the engine, the drive, the warp drive?
yes,
And so he's
and
kind of inheriting his father's legacy.
yeah, he is. But also, I am pretty sure that he was the one who was selected. I don't remember. Have to watch Broken
Y
Bow again.
yeah, he's probably handpicked for the very reason that, he shares in his father's, I guess dream of space exploration or something, or he's a representative of his father's work. So why not select him as captain? But it is an odd choice considering all the captains in Star Trek and how they get to where they are. Archer is an odd one.
Yeah, but yeah, the thing is though, there's no Starfleet yet.
Nope.
There's no Starfleet at this
Yeah.
point. This is rare.
So yeah, you can
This is
see
the
it was
first
a
time. Yeah.
political choice. It was a marketing choice. There's things pre-Starfleet that they had to take into consideration in choosing this captain to head this exploration vehicle into deep space.
Yeah, because this is one of the first ships to ever have a Warp 5 drive,
Right.
which means they can go farther in their exploration in a
Hmm.
shorter amount of time and actually learn more quickly. That's basically what they're out there to do. It doesn't always go that way, as we well know. But yeah, they don't have Starfleet at their back.
No, they don't.
They're just,
It they're
on their own.
representatives of Earth.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Of
because
humanity.
of humanity, and there's some friction between humans and Vulcans because the Vulcans have been kind of babysitting them and slow rolling their progress
Hmm.
in a very condescending manner. So the
Vulcans
yeah,
condescending? Never.
yeah, humans have been champing at the bit to get out into space, and the Vulcans just like, hold on, not quite yet, not quite yet. So, and
You're
that
not ready.
gets addressed in this episode too.
Yep. Thank you also for saying champing at the bit because guess what, listeners? That is the correct word
Hmm.
for that phrase. It is not chomping at the bit, it is champing at the bit. We bring you this grammar lesson free of charge. Thank you.
Right.
So, Green Ship shows up again.
Yeah, a
And
little
and
bit more
s-
hostile this time.
oh yeah, definitely scan them and attack them. And Malcolm in turn also gets some scans of his own.
Right.
So they have a little bit more information.
Let's say
Not
when
much.
they fired their weapons, the shields went down, which is kind of a common thing in certain vehicles. You have to run
Yeah.
power to one or the other.
Well,
Another that
that's
would serve 15 people or
at
creatures
least
on board.
15. At
At
least
least
15
15? Right.
from what he got. Well, and the thing is with in the Star Trek universe, there are, most starships in the, prime time area, like between Enterprise and, let's say, Deep Space Nine and Voyager. They can't fire without dropping shields, or they can't fire if they're cloaked, if you have a
Right.
cloak.
Yeah.
It has to
Cloak
be one
seems
or
to be
the
a
other.
big thing.
So can't
Yeah,
fire through a cloak.
you can't fire with the cloak.
And that's why Star
Operational.
Trek 6 was so so interesting, is because they had a Klingon warbird that could fire when cloaked.
Yep.
So, but the thing's got to have a tailpipe. I digress. So,
Look for its vent trails.
yeah. So, in the meantime, uh, this is all just kind of jumbled up. We're just
Well,
doing it as
it's a
it comes
very
to us.
jumbled up
It is a jumbled
episode.
episode,
Well,
but
one thing is that these aliens, the silent enemy, they keep playing cat and mouse.
mhm.
It's like they come by, they just kind of sit there, and then they leave. They come back, they attack, they go in and scan some people, put them in some kind of weird neurological distress thing where their eyes are locked open, like they're what from that movie Martin, I think it's called.
Mm.
There's a guy is in a coma, but his eyes are wide open. It's like that's not a coma, dude. Um, and then they fuck off again, and they just keep leaving, coming back, leaving, coming back. Is like, what are they doing?
Yeah, they're learning is what they're
Yeah.
doing. Each time that they appear, they learn a little bit more about the ship, its capabilities, its
Mhm.
life forms, etc.
Yeah.
Which is honestly what Enterprise would be doing, but not in the
Not in
sense
a
of wanting
hostile
to
manner.
attack them. Yeah, not
Yeah.
hostile. So, you know what? Let's just go ahead and follow this trail of the actual A plot to its end, and then we'll talk
Yep.
about Malcolm.
Yep.
So, yeah, turns out they do have ports for phase cannons, so that's cool.
Yeah.
And they only have one actual phase cannon, but they're going to build two more. And
Yep.
of course, Archer's like, no, we're going to go back to Jupiter Station. And after Archer says that and leaves, Trip's like, no, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. And
Hmm.
this may mean double shifts and all that, but we can do this. We've got to install this one, build two more. So they
And
get busy
this
with that.
is the central theme of this episode is the risk that's necessary for exploration. Is
Yes.
that they're out there pushing against that envelope of space, going further than any human has ever gone before. And there's risk involved in that. And you can see Archer struggling with that. And it was a hard choice to make to go back to Jupiter Station, but he's making it to save his crew
Mm-hmm.
because they're outmatched with these strange silent enemy aliens, which is a weird choice that they went with CG partially with these
Not
creatures as
really.
well.
It was probably less
Yeah.
expensive.
It probably was. Well, you could have had, those stilts that people can walk on that kind of have a bent, so you could get that weird goat leg kind of look with stilts.
Yeah, but they would have still looked human because they were very, very
Hmm.
skinny, like very, very
Right.
skinny.
Yeah, they were
And
like a
they're,
very tall gray alien, something from Close Encounters, which I think is what they were going for.
except for the heads were not,
Yeah, the heads were odd, and
were
also
weird.
when they got fired at with the phasers, there's like some shielding around their head that almost
Personal
looked
shielding on their
like a
bodies.
that space helmet kind of thing.
Well, I don't think it was just the helmet. I think that they just had personal shields. They're shielding
Yeah,
their entire
yeah,
bodies.
indeed.
So,
But yeah, the central theme of risk and Archer saying, "Yeah, we're going to go back to Jupiter Station," and you could see the disappointment because the whole thing is being explorers. They don't want to go back home
yeah.
because that kind of proves the Vulcans right that they weren't ready. And even when they were attacked earlier, they tried to reach out to the Vulcan High Command, but they weren't able to get the message through. And even so, it'd be what, 2 days travel for the nearest Vulcan vessel to get there?
Yeah, that's because this ship destroyed their buoys. So
Right.
they weren't able to contact anyone, really. I'm
So
very
yeah,
scratchy today. Sorry, guys.
yep, yeah, they set a course back to Jupiter Station so they could install these phaser cannons. As they have one that they have, but it's not yet installed, so they can work on that. And that's kind of the deal that Trip and Malcolm make with Archer is like, hey, I know that there's other things we need to overhaul, we need to update, but can we get started on this and just see how far we can go? Get this started before we even get to Jupiter Station.
Yep. Yep. And the aliens, when they do show up again to board the ship, they come in their own little shuttle. Don't use
Yeah.
transporters. They come in a
No, they
shuttle.
keep coming back to, I think they keep coming back to the same shuttle bay or bay doors or
Yes,
whatever,
they
which is
come
odd.
they go to Shuttle Bay 2, and that's where they land initially. But then
Uh-huh.
later on they find a weird device in Shuttle Bay 2,
Right.
that the aliens left there that they didn't
Yeah,
know
that's
about.
giving off a lot of energy.
Yeah, it's basically a big old bug. And
Yeah, it
by
looks like a
bug, I mean
recording
it's got
device.
a camera and
Hmm.
audio, and it's recording all their shit throughout their ship.
Yeah, it looks
So,
like a sensor disc,
yeah.
like Mythbusters would use to see if blast, something was within a blast radius and how much pressure it gave off.
Yeah.
Kind of had that look to it.
Yep. So, and in that little altercation, their port nacelle was damaged. So
Hmm.
now they're going to have an even harder time getting back to Jupiter Station. Luckily, they do make it back to the same general area where they originally dropped their little buoys.
Yep.
So they didn't lose too much as far as time wasted backtracking.
Right.
But they do try testing the one of the phase cannons, and it's a little more powerful than they expected.
Yeah, and there's this debate between Trip and Malcolm as to how to go about wiring up these phase cannons because they required a
Mm.
lot of power, more power than they could really spare. And Malcolm was running them through some kind of relay that Trip was like, well, we need that relay, and if you it shorts out, that's gonna damage us and possibly destroy us. And of course, Malcolm's like, well, I ran some simulations and it's a very small risk. And so again, they touch upon this whole thing about is the risk worth the doing of the thing?
Hmm.
It's like, why go out into space at all? And that's the debate that Trip had with Archer too, when Archer was saying that they were going back to Jupiter Station. Is like, why? We can do this here. We've got engineers that are just as capable as the engineers at Jupiter Station that can make these cannons from scratch and get them operational. And yeah, we're a little behind schedule because, of course, the ship's damaged. The warp drive is inoperational, and they do have one nacelle gone, and they don't even have impulse power at the moment. But Trip was even saying they'll be back in like minutes.
Yeah, because when that attack, well, it wasn't even really a full attack. They just showed up, they boarded, they
Hmm.
left their little present, and then as they were leaving, they caused more trouble to the point where, like, it was dark, there was no
Oh
light,
yeah, they
there
shut
was
off
no
everything.
energy.
And
Just,
Archer even yells at to Paul is like, he was be shorter, quicker just to tell me what is operational.
yeah. So they couldn't get main power back on, and the enemies abscond again, thereby attacking the ship and not destroying, but damaging greatly
Hmm.
the port nacelle. By the way, guys, if you don't know, port is left and starboard
Starboard
is
is right.
right. Fore is
Aft
the front, aft
is
is the
back,
back.
or is front.
Yeah.
Uh, Lower deck is lower, upper deck is upper.
Yes, all of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and during this whole trying to get everything back online, I can't even remember what Archer says, but Trip looks at him and says, "Your ear's a little pointier than usual."
I
And
think it was just talking about going back to Jupiter Station.
yeah,
And he's like,
I
why
don't
would
think so. I
we
think this
go
was later
back
on.
home?
This was
Yeah.
later on in the episode. So I don't remember what Archer had said, but he does admit that he had something to prove, because they're talking about,
Right.
you know, how quickly they left and how everyone said they weren't ready, but they had to get this
Right.
guy back to
Hmm.
Kronos, still alive, all that stuff.
Right, that's right. Is Archer was having doubts as to whether they should have left or not. And
Yeah.
that's when he said if his ears are a little pointier than usual.
Thank you. We worked it out. We worked
Yeah.
it out what he had said. So But yeah, this is right around the time that they find the thing in Shuttle Bay 2,
Hmm.
and basically Archer talks into it and says, we're not ones to start a fight, but that doesn't mean we're going to run from one. He basically just says, "Yeah, come at us, bro.
Yep.
We don't want to fight you, but if you're going to start a fight,
Hmm.
we'll finish it."
Yeah, humans are tenacious.
Yep. So yeah. So the ship, oh, guess what? Comes back. Big surprise. Big surprise. Just this whole warping in, warping out, warping in, warping out. Just like,
Yeah,
hi, bye. I love you, I hate you.
it's like playing tag. Yeah, you're it,
Mm,
and then disappearing. But yeah, you were talking about them testing the cannon
yeah.
on the that
There was
moon.
there was a moon or a dead planet, and they Archer asked several, more than one time if there was no life form on there. He's like, I don't want some microbe there that's gonna grow into a sentient species in 2 billion years. And T'Pol just gives him this look, like,
If you were
I'm
to
good at
Paul,
my
would
job
you be so annoyed with Archer in this?
all the
Because
time.
he's yelling at her, he's being short with her, he's asking her repeatedly the same question.
Well, I don't think that it's directed at her.
Right,
I think that all of those things are actually directed at himself. He's
right.
upset with himself at this moment, but he's taking it out on other people. And T'Pol is just like, I'm sure.
Well,
Just that.
he also, because she's a Vulcan, he also like targets her with all his issues with the Vulcan High Command
Hmm.
because there's stuff that they keep from them. And
Yeah.
so he asks her, is there, do the Vulcans know anything about this alien race? She says, no. He's like, even in their secret documents and stuff like that. And she's like, not that I'm aware of. There's
Yeah.
only so much she knows. You can't treat her as a representative of the entire Vulcan race. Just like you can't look at Archer and say he is all of humanity. It's unfair.
Yeah, it's not fair. Well, the thing is though, he has his suspicions about her anyway, because he didn't want to take her along. She was
Right.
placed on his
Hmm.
ship without his uh permission,
Right.
and he knows that she's sending reports back to the
Hmm.
Vulcan High Command because that's what she is there to do.
And this is season one in which there still isn't the trust that has been established between the two
Yeah.
of them. So it's early
Yes.
days yet. We'll see it later when they're more on the same page than suspicious of one another. At least he is suspicious of her.
Yeah. And I don't know if you noticed, but she doesn't have the Vulcan eyebrows yet.
Hmm.
She still
Because
has
they are
regular
still trying to
eyebrows.
prettify her. And that's something we've addressed too with
Hmm.
Voyager and Seven of Nine is this need around this era to appeal to the male gaze. And
That's
Jolene
been
Blaylock,
the need since
yeah,
TOS, babe.
yeah, that's true. But yeah, selecting her in particular to be eye candy, and that they've really lucked out by
Mm.
getting actors that can really do something with the role and make something more of what it was intended. So Jolene's really good in the role, and
Yes,
she develops into a more complex character just as Seven of Nine had. So
indeed.
yeah, it's fortunate that they got the talent because you don't always get that. Sometimes you get God, I forget her name, but Christmas Jones
Oh,
from Double O
Denise
Seven,
Richards?
Denise Richards, which for something like a drama or an action movie or like something like Starship Troopers, she doesn't fit. I understand she's really good in comedies. Like I think she's really good in Undercover Brother, and I think she's on some reality, one of the housewives shows that she's really good in too, just as herself. You know, something that's more suited to her, but in other things, yeah, it just doesn't work. She's just there for eye candy and there's nothing else there
Hmm.
because she's just, they hired her for one specific reason and it's the wrong one.
Well, and the thing is that often women who don't have the same skills as people or women who have been working on their craft
Hmm.
for, their entire teenage and adult lives,
Right.
but they don't have they're not fuckable.
Right.
See, that was the
Yeah.
whole thing.
Hmm.
Are you fuckable?
Right.
And that was something that was still happening
Hmm.
during Enterprise. You try that now in Star Trek, Oh, no, 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 no.
No, it doesn't.
No.
No.
That person who's asking that question would get fired
Hmm.
and blacklisted. So,
And it's crazy how often like they'll hire a model for an acting gig, and it turns out they do really, really well. We get that with like
yes,
Battlestar Galactica and all kinds of series.
agree.
Is that
And
they're hired because of the fuckability, and then end up showing that they're more
they're
talented,
actually
more
good
nuanced,
actors.
and yeah,
Yeah.
they've actually have talent behind them.
Yeah.
And Jolene Blaylock is one of those, in my opinion.
Yeah. Trisha Helfer has been in a shit ton of stuff.
Right.
I mean, she has been in a lot of stuff. And our oh God, I hate when I blank on a name. Number
Yeah, I
one.
do it all the time. Is it the
Rebecca
Starbuck?
Romaine. Rebecca
Oh,
Romaine.
Rebecca Romaine. Oh, yeah, because, yeah,
Yeah.
very much a model in the early days, but then you see her as Mystique in the X-Men movies, and then now in Strange New Worlds.
Also a trained stage actor
Mm,
and singer. So
right, right.
remember that Prince tribute where she did
Mm,
um
she does Darling Nikki, I think.
yeah, Darling Nikki.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's a hell of a tribute. It's got a lot of gothic and industrial and that kind of EBM bands. It's got this kind of alternative hip hop group called Meeks, or artist called Meeks, on there.
Mm.
So yeah, it's
Yeah.
I think there's a Frontline Assembly song on that album, if I'm not mistaken. As my
I
voice
believe.
goes up, because I'm unsure. I could bring it up.
No, let's
Was that
not do that right now.
okay? All right.
Unless you really want to. Do you really want to?
If I can remember the name of the album, I think it's. I know Dead or Alive is on there. I think they Dead or Alive does Sign of the Times on there. But yeah, it's a really cool album. So if you want
Mhm.
to check out that, if you're into covers. Speaking of, I have a covers playlist on Spotify called The Odd Cover, and yeah, it's under DJ Evil Dave, and that's probably on there as several songs, including Darling Nikki, is probably on uh that playlist, which is over 1,000 songs long. I just added some Zarina songs off a Zarina song off her new album Empire is on there. She does a Tool song, The Outsider, or not Tool, Perfect Circle.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, yeah, same singer, different band.
Yep. And for some reason, like the way he sings better in a perfect circle.
I think Tool is more crass than a Perfect Circle, and I can see how one would appeal more to you than the other.
Yeah.
Because Tool lyrics they're very crass, and a Perfect Circle, I think, is more cerebral.
Yes. Yes. Anyway, back to the show.
Yep, back to the
So
show. So
So
aliens
they, so the
testing.
aliens, they've tested their defenses and whatnot, and they leave and they come back again, and they've managed to get power back on and all that shit. But this time, uh, when the aliens show up, the aliens show them this thing they pieced together from that conversation that Archer had with the probe or whatever it was, and
Right.
basically said, "You are defenseless. Prepare to surrender your ship." So, and Archer's like, "Oh, hell no.
No,
Hell to the no."
I will not surrender this ship.
So, so they decide to overload the plasma cannons, and they just shoot them the first time. Doesn't
Yep.
really have
Yeah,
them, but their shields
the
start fluctuating.
right. Which is
So,
where we got the title of this
yes.
podcast, kind of, sort of.
But the second time, they just like go for it. Let burn him out if we have to. Give it everything she's got. Give it everything she's got. And they really do a number on that alien ship.
Yeah, they cut right through the shields, damage it enough that they have to flee, and they're venting some kind of green smoke because green equals bad guy.
Yep. Basically, they wet their panties and ran.
Yeah, yeah.
So
It's interesting. I don't think we've ever encountered this alien race again.
not that I know of.
So who the hell are they? And like, this is the one time we see them in the whole of Star
Yes,
Trek.
they've never been named as far as I know, but I'd have to go on to Memory Alpha to be sure.
So that's a hell of a way to scare them off.
Yeah.
And they never return.
Never ever. Oh, we don't
Yeah,
mess
not
with
that
the
I know of.
humans.
Yeah.
The
Yeah, you'd
humans are
think
scary.
even like if anybody would bring them back, it would be Lower Decks, because they do
Hmm.
that shit all the time. It's like,
All the
what's the
time.
most obscure alien race that nobody ever deals anything with, that showed up once in this one episode. It's like, yeah, you could see Lower Decks doing that, but it hasn't happened yet.
which
And this
which
is, yeah,
which
final season.
saying, the most recent Lower Decks episode, the most exotic nanite hotel, the B plot with Boimler and Billups and Ransom, they talk about as a Star Trek alien that we meet in Enterprise, the Cretaceans.
Right. So
The
yeah, it's something Lower
Cretaceans
Decks
are,
does all the time.
yeah, but they really nailed it with the Cretaceans because they get so offended if you
Right.
don't do everything just so. Like you
Mhm.
let your beagle pee on a tree,
Right.
one of their sacred trees.
Well, that is kind of as offensive things go. That's pretty up there. But in Lower Decks when they're just kind of playing some kind of weird volleyball thing,
Yeah, so that
it's
that
like
made
with
me
a
really
beach ball
happy.
tossing it back and forth, and you step in and you join in without asking or whatever. Or no, it's
Mhm.
something to do with them eating. Is like, what are you eating? And eating is very sacred to them. It's almost like asking how they have sex.
Yeah, it's crazy. The
Yeah,
Cretaceans are nuts.
yeah,
They're
they're very
nuts.
high strung.
So,
There's a
yeah,
cat snoring over here.
of course. So
Yeah.
before we go back to the B plot, why does everybody perch on the captain's chair?
That's weird because I saw that too. Because at first it was to Paul, while Archer's running around the ship trying to put out fires, she has the con and she's right on the edge, like sitting on her tailbone in the captain's chair, just
Seems
pushing
uncomfortable.
random buttons. It seemed very uncomfortable, and she was kind of like sitting like a spider. It was all arms and legs.
That's because she's very thin and very
She's
willowy.
lithe. Yes, she's
Yeah,
very willowy.
she's got long limbs.
Yep.
But then later, you also see Archer perching.
Hmm.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
just sit in the goddamn chair. Why are you sitting on the
Like
edge?
right on the edge of the chair. Like that can't, and you're
That
not
is
getting any support. No lumbar support.
no.
You're resting on your legs anyway because your
That's
weight's
gonna
not
be
settled on the
hurt.
chair. It's probably
Yeah.
not good for the chair either because it's putting a lot of the weight at the very end of it.
Yeah, and then it's gonna get all creaky, and then you're gonna have to
Yep.
bring something trip in to tighten the nuts and bolts, and just sit in the goddamn chair.
Which reminds me of the episode when Enterprise is in the doldrums and everything's annoying them. And it's
Oh,
like
the
Archer's like,
doldrums.
this chair, it's got to squeak. Fix this squeak. Uh,
Yes.
yeah.
If you don't know what the doldrums are, I suggest that you read the poem The Rime of the Ancient Mariner.
Yeah, it's kind of when you're on open sea and there's no wind, so you're just
Yeah, you're
adrift.
stuck. You're stuck.
Yeah.
You can't
So
go
there's a
anywhere.
similar thing that happens to the Enterprise in deep space.
Yep, yep, yep.
Yep, yep.
Okay, let's go
So
back to
B plot.
Malcolm. Malcolm's birthday. So Hoshi has been tasked with finding
Hmm.
out his favorite food. The communication to Earth in Malaysia, of
Hmm.
course, is to Malcolm's parents. And you immediately know his dad is a dick.
Even by British standards, he is
He's
aloof. He's
massive dick.
yeah.
Withholding love, I'm
Hmm.
sure.
Oh, and referring to the grandfather's like, well, his grandfather would appreciate that and or be proud of that, but saying that he's not proud of his own son.
Yeah, because his son was supposed to go into the Navy,
Hmm.
but instead he went into Starfleet, and that is apparently not something that he can be proud of because he copied and pasted all of his expectations onto his child.
Yeah, which is not why you have children.
No, it's
They're
not.
not supposed to be carbon copies of you. They're supposed to be their
No.
own individuals.
And then his mom couldn't be more different.
Yep.
she's she's kind and gracious, but also kowtowed by daddy.
Hmm.
And that just had an ick factor for me. Just no.
How many human resources rules is Hoshi violating this whole time? Because
I
she's like
don't
contacting his family, he's contacting former service people, people that Malcolm served with. His sister even goes in far so far as to talk to the doctor about his medical records.
Yeah, but
It's
that's the
pretty
thing.
invasive.
She only does that when she's desperate, but she's tried
Hmm.
every other way. And
Yeah.
nobody knows what his favorite food is. His parents don't know, his sister doesn't know. Interesting thing about the sister, she was very genial and kind
Hmm.
and had a bright light about her. And that must mean that her dad completely ignored her
Right.
because he didn't cut and paste any expectations onto her, and she got to be just whoever she wanted to be. But not Malcolm. No, no, no. He had a reputation he was supposed to uphold.
Right. So a little
Mm-hmm.
bit of misogyny, a little bit of patriarchy in the Reed family
Mm-hmm.
is
Mm-hmm.
continuing the tradition down the line of male heirs.
Yep.
It's very old school.
She even has lunch with Malcolm.
Oh, there's kitties meowing outside.
Oh, goodness.
And does not include ours.
Somebody's fighting.
I know.
So yeah, she has lunch with Malcolm, and he's working on stuff having to do with the phase cannons at the time. So he's got a pad, and he's not
Mm.
paying complete attention. And she's trying to say, "Oh, well, are you enjoying what you're eating?" And she's trying to get information out of him, and he's just like, "It's fine," not even saying anything else because he's focusing on this other thing. And so she just says, chef can get kind of boring sometimes. I think I'm gonna fix something. And what's your favorite food, so I can fix your
Hmm.
favorite food. And she says all these things
As
that are
yep.
completely innocent, and Malcolm thinks she's hitting on him.
As soon as she offered to make him a meal, I went, "Uh-oh. Oh no. He's gonna take that as flirting. He's gonna take that as an offer." And
Yeah.
he responds in a very kind way. I mean, still putting her down, but or declining her, but still it's, I think that would be inappropriate. We work together,
Yeah,
et
it's
cetera, et cetera.
horrifying for her.
Yeah, yeah. And it's horrifying for him too, because I'm sure he's embarrassed by it too. And
Yeah,
there's
not as
just little
embarrassed as she
elements
is.
because Malcolm Reed seems like he's a very private person. And
I wonder
so the
why.
fact that they're digging around his past and asking a bunch of questions about him and his experience and contacting people he knows to find out more about him, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way because I'm a bit that way too. It's like I don't like my birthday recognized at work. That's for me, that's a private thing for me to enjoy. I don't need to be recognized for, the day I was born at work. I can just celebrate on my own for me. So the
Yeah.
fact that they're going, out of their way to recognize Malcolm Reed on his birthday, yeah, it's just kind of odd to me in that respect.
Well, I think it also is down to they're all still getting to know each other,
Right.
and they just want to do something nice. And like
Hmm.
anyone else on the ship, you could ask them what their favorite food was and they'd tell you.
And
But
that's something T'Pol even says. Is just ask him.
yeah,
It's like, if you want to know what his favorite food is, just ask him.
but with the way Malcolm is, would he have said why? Like, why do you want to
Yeah,
know what my favorite food is?
true.
And then the jig is up.
Yep.
So I can understand why they did it the way that they did. And to be honest, it was a really lovely way to say, hey, we care about you, and here's something we know you'll like. They make
Right.
the effort to find out this thing, but they don't really get very far until Hoshi finally just decides fuck it and goes to see Dr. Phlox and says, look, I know that this is stuff that you can't tell me, but I really need to know if there's anything in his medical records that might help me figure out what his favorite food. And he's just like, I can't give you that information. And Hoshi tries to explain why. And Phlox is like, well, let's see. And he finally
That
decides
he's
to
got all
say,
these allergies that he's just telling her. It's like,
yeah.
hello.
And I
It's
think
like, well,
what
he's
is it?
allergic to
Bromelain?
tropical grasses, but yeah, some Romulan, that's not Romulan, but
Bromelain is bromelain, I
bromelain.
think.
It's an
Bromelain.
enzyme in certain plants,
Like pineapple.
like
Pineapple is
pineapple.
the most prolific of that. And
Yeah, he's got
he
these other
specifically,
allergies that he's not treating himself for, but he is for this one.
yeah.
So it tells you
So
that he's taking something to prevent any kind of symptoms that come from being exposed to this particular enzyme.
not to being exposed to it, he wants to eat it. He
Yeah.
loves pineapple, but he doesn't want to
Yeah, and if
die
you're
from
allergic
it.
to something and you're eating it, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's gonna cause some issues. So, taking this particular supplement or whatever he's taking to counteract the effects of this enzyme.
Yeah. So they finally get the information. Hoshi gives the information. We don't really see that on screen, but at the
Nope.
end of the episode, we see everyone gathering and surprising Malcolm with a cake. And he's
Yeah,
just
and
kind
they're
of,
having beer too to celebrate
yeah.
the installment of the cannons and getting them to work properly. So they're having a beer, and then yeah, Hoshi shows up with this big old Star Trek crate. It's not as nicely merchandised as the stuff on the Ordex is. It doesn't have like
Mhm.
the Starfleet Starfleet Delta all over it.
Oh, or like on Discovery, where they had the Delta on their popcorn bags
All right,
and their
right.
medical carts and their
Yep.
tricorders and their
Mm-hmm.
hypo spray.
Yep. It's like, geez, this is if Lost returned to Starfleet.
Right. Just find a hypospace just floating out in space. Oh, what's
Yeah.
this? Oh,
Oh, it belongs to
property of
Starfleet.
Starfleet. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they bring out the cake and Malcolm is he's being, nice, but it's not until he actually cuts the piece and sees that it's pineapple cake. He's
Mm-hmm.
just like, "Pineapple. It's my favorite. How did you know?" He
Yeah,
was
because
he
even
seemed really
yeah,
touched.
yeah, even Dr. Flox is like, this might not mean that pineapple's his favorite. And he's like, well, it's something to go by.
Yeah.
So yeah, and he was genuinely uh charmed and excited and grateful that they made the pineapple cake for him.
Yep.
I personally would not like a pineapple cake.
I don't like pineapple.
I don't hate pineapple, but I don't like it either. It's
I
like
don't
if
even
I
like
had a choice, I'd probably go without pineapple. I
I
don't
don't
really
like the
need it.
taste of it. I don't like the smell of
Yeah.
it. I don't like the texture of it. I don't even
It
like it in
is
juice. I just
tart.
don't like it.
Yeah.
Just don't like it at
Yeah,
all.
not the biggest fan of pineapple, but I can eat it. It's just I prefer not to.
Same, same.
Um, any other general thoughts about this episode? Because I might have a few.
Uh, well, it's nice that, the ending basically they don't have to go back to Earth now, but they can drop
Mhm.
more subspace buoys. That's what I'm calling them.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
not
that's
what they
basically
call
what they
them,
are.
but
Satellites, buoys.
yeah, but that's what they're there for. It's I have kind of a love almost hate relationship with Enterprise because it feels like it's such a step backwards in
Hmm.
representation.
Yeah, well, it's a step backwards in time too, so it kind of
Yeah.
makes sense in some respect that they still haven't progressed as far as they have in later incarnations of Star Trek. But yeah, still, if you're making this, I think the sexual politics is kind of off
Hmm.
for Enterprise, and it's a bit jarring after watching other Star Treks to go to Enterprise. You're like, well, there's only two women on board. There's people of color on board, but they're not really treated that well. You'll see one black woman. She's doesn't have a speaking line. There's what Mayweather there. He has a
Hmm.
one little tiny scene, but it doesn't amount to much.
Yeah. It's basically all the white people, the white men who get the
Yeah.
most to do.
Yeah. In fact, the celebration is between three white men at the very end when they're all sharing a beer together.
And one Hoshi.
And one Hoshi who comes in delivering food.
Yep. She's the Uber Eats or the
And throughout
yep.
the episode was basically acting as Archer's personal assistant, going and
Hmm.
getting a cake
Yep.
when she's a communications officer.
Hmm.
She's not like a
And
morale officer, she is the communications
yeah,
officer.
speaks like 97 languages or
Hmm.
something. But,
Yeah.
let's go send her on an errand to find what someone's favorite food is.
And just Archer's treatment of T'Pol throughout the episode, very annoying. When he's shouting right at her, and I think was it in the med bay he was shouting at her?
I don't recall.
Because he was upset at his crewman getting attacked
Right.
and was questioning her, interrogating her to see if the Vulcans knew anything about these aliens. And she's
Well,
just standing there taking it because she has the patience of a saint.
yes. Whereas inside she's thinking about all the ways that she could kill him
Yeah, I
silently.
could neck pinch you right now and put you to sleep for a good 3 days.
Yeah. And I think though that she knows that this anger isn't actually directed at her.
Right.
But that's beside the point.
Hmm.
The point is that Archer needs to, calm himself the fuck down.
Well, knowing that Vulcans feel very deeply, they just use logic to control it. That the self-control that it
Hmm.
takes. That is through that logic training that she's not punching him right in up the bracket, as the British say.
Yep. Yeah, it's and I know that a lot of that is still sort of highlighting the fact that he still doesn't trust her, that he
Right.
knows she's reporting to the Vulcan High Command and he
Yep.
doesn't know what she's saying to them, etc. ad nauseum. But yeah, I I do like Enterprise. I do. But there are times in certain episodes where the treatment of anyone who's not a cishet white male is very ugh.
Well, even so, there's this elevation of the mediocre white man that
Mm,
Archer seems to represent.
mm,
That he's the captain of this vessel, and why? Because his daddy made the engine.
yeah,
And it's kind of, I mean, he improves in later seasons and becomes his own captain. You know, he kind of
he
shakes off the
does.
mantle of being his father's son and becomes his own person. But at the moment, and just how inadequate he seems in some regard, and the misplaced optimism, and just little things like that.
Mm,
Love Porthos though. Nice having a little
yeah,
beagle on board, little Snoopy dog.
yeah. They are. That's three different dogs that play the part
Yeah.
of that dog over the years.
Uh, I like this episode for its character moments because you do learn a lot about certain characters. Not all of them. Like we said, Mayweather's got one tiny little scene and you don't learn anything about him.
Hmm.
Hoshi's great in this. She's
Yes.
fantastic. She really makes the most of the time she's given. Yeah, and when she's kind of just like that flirting kind of thing you do when you want something from somebody, what she's doing with Dr. Phlox. She kind of
Hmm.
approaches and smiles up at him and stuff. He's like, please. He's like, oh, fine, okay. That was a cute moment.
Yeah.
Um, and the awkwardness between she and Malcolm, as she's trying to figure out what he likes to eat. And there's some tense moments too, really those moments that reinforce the theme about the risk thing. The confrontation between Trip and Malcolm's really good.
Hmm.
Trip and Archer, where Trip realizes, oh, I'm doing the same thing Archer is with risk. I'm not willing to take the risk for the thing that needs to be done.
Hmm.
It's like I have to accept that there is a slight chance of failure, but I have to go forward with that because, yeah, if we want to survive out here, we're going to have to realize that there is that likelihood that we may not survive. I was listening to the Flophouse earlier today, and they were saying when Japanese man became a samurai, they would hold a funeral because
Mm,
at that moment the samurai has already accepted death, that they've already died and no longer fear death because, the risk is there that you're to serve your lord and you're to die for your lord. And so, yeah, you hold a funeral, boom, you're already dead. And if you already accept death, there's no fear. And kind of a similar thing with, the space exploration. It's super dangerous. I mean, just what the space station just recently, they couldn't get them back. So they've been there for, I think they were supposed to be there for like weeks. They've been there for months.
mm,
There's risk involved in space exploration. If you can't accept that, you don't belong out there. And
yeah.
I think both Archer and Trip realize that. Malcolm seems to have known all the time.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He's fully he knows why he's there. And
Yeah.
that's the thing is that he wanted this
Hmm.
and he knew what the risks were and he
Yep.
wasn't going to stay and become a Navy man like everybody else seemed
Yeah.
to want him to be.
And he's the
He,
tactical officer. He's there to make the calculated risk. He's
yep.
there to weigh, what's our likelihood of survival against whether we sit here and fight or flee. He's there to make that split second decision for the captain. If the captain can't make it, it's, the captain's going to turn to you going, should we fight or should we flee? To the tactical officer. And so, yeah, he's got to know. And so, yeah, he went through the simulations. He made sure the risk was low enough that it was acceptable. And Trip at first didn't trust that. And
Yeah.
so later on, when they say, hey, go ahead, hook it through these relays. I trust you. We can, shield off the rest of this energy into hull plating or whatever that. I still don't understand how it works, but
Yeah.
um, yeah. So I like the character moments. The alien stuff is kind of fun, but I don't know what those aliens are doing. But that makes them more alien, which works. It
Yes.
wasn't as creepy as I was kind of hoping for a like slightly post-Halloween episode of the shield modulation. I thought it'd be a little creepier what the aliens are doing,
Mm,
judging by some thumbnails, some screenshots I saw. Like the very Signs moment where they catch them in their flashlights as they're crossing across the corridor and the kind of that lurch fashion
hmm.
as they kind of stalk across the corridor.
No,
Kind
you
of a
you want
freaky
you want a
moment.
spooky Halloween story, then you watch that episode. Oh my God, what is it called? I want to
Oh
say
yeah,
it's
the
called
one with
Impulse.
that weird disease that basically zombifies you.
Yeah, and yeah, ship full of zombie Vulcans.
Yeah. Yeah, that one's spooky. That's probably one of the scariest episodes of Star Trek. I mean, not just
Yes.
Enterprise, but Star Trek in general. One of the
Yeah.
scariest
Espe
episodes.
especially when T'Pol starts turning
Yeah.
in air quotes. Yeah, yeah. All right then.
So,
Anything
yeah.
else?
So episode. It's got its problems, it's got its beats, it's a slow burn. It takes
Mm-hmm.
its time, this episode.
Yeah. It's what I
Because
feel is very realistic for another species to happen upon them and not be able to communicate. And so they're just like, hey, you want to be friends? And they're just like, nah,
nah, we don't know what
nah.
you are. We're gonna leave. We're gonna come back and figure out what you are.
And then we're gonna take your
Yeah.
shit.
It had bits which a lot of Star Trek does of taking kind of like a submarine movie kind of feel to it, like a submarine versus a destroyer kind of thing, where this destroyer shows up, drops some depth charges, the submarine has to go skittle off, repair, come back, and just
Yeah.
back and forth, this kind of hunt for one another.
Well, and that's the thing is that these ships are based on naval vessels,
Oh yeah,
you
you
know?
can tell by the design of the corridors too that they really went hard for submarine with this design of the Enterprise because it's so early days that
Yes.
it's got a lot of sea vessel type qualities to it.
It does indeed. It does indeed. All right. So
All
anything
right.
else you want to talk about before we pick the next
I
episode?
think that covered it, so it's time to roll the dice and figure out what we're going to watch next.
Yes.
I've
Okay,
got
let me
my
grab my phone.
hopes. I'm hoping we'll cover something we haven't covered yet, but we'll see.
Yes, we'll see. Okay. Hey Siri, give me
So
a number.
exciting.
Oh, wait. I can't. I have to
You
account
have to
for the
add some.
three. Shush. I have to account for the three episodes of Lower Decks that have already dropped.
Mm.
So that puts us at 937. Okay, here we go. Hey Siri, give me a number between 1 and 937. 614.
Did you just freeze or is that me?
No,
Okay.
614. Back to Voyager.
This is our third Voyager.
Third
Granted, we're gonna
Voyager.
have more likelihood of getting some episodes than other, depending on how long the series ran and for how many episodes. And I think
Agreed.
Voyager is pretty chunky.
Yeah. Voyager had 7 seasons.
Seven
Usually
seasons with what,
about
26
26 episodes.
episodes per
Yeah.
season?
Yeah.
So we're
Ish.
talking like 150, over 150 episodes, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Okay.
out of 900, yeah, we could land on Voyager a lot. So
So season 7,
season
episode
7.
number 11, 711.
Okay. So
And
this is when I dropped out because I was done with Voyager by season 7. So I'm guessing I'm probably not going to like this one.
hard to say.
Yeah,
You might like it better
we'll see.
with the revisiting.
Because if they're trying to do the Chakotay 7 romance thing, then ugh, no thank you.
Yeah, I know. Okay, I'm writing this down. So, because
Oh,
God
did we get the
knows.
name of the episode? I didn't
Shattered.
catch. Shattered. Shattered.
Shattered.
All right.
So that
Unfamiliar. I may or may not have seen this episode.
uh I have seen this episode, but it has been a very, very long time to the point where I couldn't with any great certainty tell you exactly which one what it is, exactly what it's
Right.
about. So
Yeah, we'll see. I'm not
you
looking too much forward to it, but hey, Star Trek is Star Trek. There's going to be something to enjoy out of it.
yes, yes. So there we are, folks. That is Silent Enemy for you. And we'll see you next time when we do Shattered from season 7 of
Shattered.
feature. And you can find us on social media things. Like if you want to drop us a little message or something. Dave, tell them about the social media places.
There's Shield Podulate on Twitter, which was X, but might soon become Twitter again. Judging
Yes, we'll see.
how things are going. There is Shield Podulation on Blue Sky. There's the email, which I want to say is shieldpodulation@gmail.com if you want to send us a message, feedback,
That's correct.
questions, concerns, recipes, recommendations.
Personal anecdotes that are short.
Well, I should look up songs based on the titles of episodes of Star Trek. Come
There
back
you
with
go.
something that's Shattered related because I enjoy doing weird things like that. I'll
Yep.
have to try to remember to do that.
Good
Anyhow,
times.
yeah, that's the socials. I'm DJ Evil Dave, Dark Corner Cast on X, Twitter, DJ Evil Dave everywhere else. So if you want to contact me directly, if you want to follow me, Blue Sky seems to be blowing up after certain things occurred on Twitter. People getting sick of it. So yeah, I'm there.
Yeah, I'm hardly on it, to be honest,
Yeah.
Twitter.
Yeah, you're on
So-
Instagram mostly, so yeah, if you want to follow her
Instagram,
on Instagram.
yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at Brandy Jackola. You can also follow me on Blue Sky at Brandywine. Ha ha ha! I didn't have to put a number
Ah,
after it because I got
nice.
in first,
Yep.
bitches.
And Blue Sky's pretty fun.
Yes, I
It's
like
getting better
it.
now that more people's there. It was a
Well,
ghost town for a while, but now it's getting populated. It's getting more interesting.
Well, they were phasing in new features
Hmm.
slowly instead
Right.
of bombarding. So, because there was a point where you couldn't post a GIF. Yes,
Right.
I'm going to say GIF. And you couldn't post a video and things like that. And now you can do that. And direct messages are now a
Mhm.
thing. There are a lot
Yep.
of upgrades that they're making because I think that they saw the writing on the wall where X is concerned
Yep.
and decided, hey,
So
we need
yeah,
to get our house in order so we can
I
open
think
our
even
doors to
hashtags work
people.
now.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
there's that.
Yep. So there we are, folks.
Yep.
And we will see you 2 weeks hence for Shattered,
Our third Voyager episode.
our third Voyager episode.
But hey, that's the random of randomness.
It's great.
Yep. Playing the percentages.
Indeed.
All right.
Until then, live long and proper and live logs and prosper.
Live, logs, and prosper. I'm doing crabs with my holding hand.
Yeah.